Good morning. 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 Good morning, Free. Good morning, Alashe. Good morning, Byron. Good morning, Samiko. Grand Risings. You are up. Good morning, Brooklyn. I got to meet Brooke last week. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Daniel. Good morning. You're on the East Coast, so you're not coming to church at 5 a.m. Thank you, Daniel. We appreciate your commitment. We absolutely do. Good morning, friends. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Ronnie Galvin. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning to our community. Good morning, Nicole, Denise. Good morning to all who are on Facebook this morning and on YouTube. Seems like it's a light crowd, but we here. Amen and Ashe. Good morning, Connie. Good morning, Rosalind. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. Come on into the space and into the room. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Sheila. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. If you would, firstly, if you are not already following us on YouTube, if you are not connected with us on YouTube, I would love, let's see if I can get you. I would love for you to come on over. Put it right here in the chat. Put it in the chat. I would love for you to, that's going to take you right to this live, but I put it there so that you can go ahead and click like, subscribe, to subscribe with us on YouTube. We'd be so greatly appreciative to have you as one of our subscribers on YouTube. And there you can go and watch so many of the previous lives, the previous messages are all housed there. And so we invite you to subscribe with us on YouTube. And when you subscribe, you help us to be able to do different things and take advantage of different things that YouTube has to offer for us as a community. Wow, you're on Mountain Time. So what time is it for you, Free? Oh my goodness. I so appreciate you all. And then for those of you who are interested in once you subscribe on YouTube, for those of you, so is Byron, I think, yeah. For those of you who are, it's Tanya. Oh, yes. You know, I'm like, who is that? Hey, Tanya. For those of you who are on YouTube and you want to, you already subscribed to our YouTube page, which of course is no cost to do so, but you want to be in community with us even more. You want to immediately leave our live stream and go to our private Zoom where we talk back to the text. I've provided for you a link here where you can do that, and then you can let me know that you have subscribed, and I will send you the link. Subscription for the clearing is $30. It's a monthly offering of $30. And you get to be in our private Facebook group. You get to be in our private Zoom as we talk back to the text, and you get the recording of the PRC and the talk back to the text if you are unable to watch it live. And so this is an offering, Ashe. Many of folks have asked, how can they? This is one way to support. So good morning. All your links and everything you need is there. Good morning to everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I'm glad to be here with you before we even get started. As folks are still coming in the room, I don't see y'all liking. So if you're on Facebook, please like this and please go ahead and share it. That helps us. And so I appreciate you. It would be like Friends and Family Day when you are inviting folks to come into the room. I'm inviting you to do just that. So please, please go ahead. Folks might still be asleep. Hey, Brian Durant. Good to see you. Hey, good to read your name. Hey, Tamil. Hey, Diane. Hey, Angie. Yeah, that's my hometown right there. Yes. Hey, Sherry. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So before we even get started, shout out to The Gathering. Come on and give it up for The Gathering Church. The Gathering, a womanist church. To my colleagues in this work, to my comrades in this work, to my sisters in spirit and in love, the Reverend Doctors Camila Hall Sharp and Irie Lynn Session. Shout out to you both for all of the ways for the past 7 years that you have remained committed, that you have remained to the task, on the course, and in communalship with one another, displaying sisterhood, womanist sisterhood, and leading from a non-hierarchical place. We celebrate you here at Pink Robe Chronicles. We acknowledge and we honor you, the feat of existing for 7 years, and we wish you 7 plus 70 more years to come. We are so excited for those of you who have not had an opportunity to worship with The Gathering, who worships on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central. You can do so via their Facebook page or their app. And on yesterday, they celebrated. They had 2 phenomenal tag team preachers and celebrated the baptism. And so I'm really, really excited for you all. Congratulations and happy anniversary. Another happy anniversary is in order. Woo, woo. It would be me. Woo, woo. It would be me. Yep. It's me. Shout out to me. Shout out to me and my love. Happy anniversary to us. Uh-oh, my light them fell. Got so hyped. Shout out to the excitement. Shout out to me and my love, y'all. This is our anniversary is on tomorrow, October 14th. Tomorrow. We will celebrate 19 years, 19 years of being married, 29 of being together, and wow, I'm gonna just roll on past that short. Tomorrow I have something very profound to say. What I'll say, well, no, I'll just do what I said I was gonna say. So, yes, shout out to Derek and I tomorrow when you see our post. Show us some love. Yeah. Show us some love and we will be greatly appreciative. All right, folks, it looks like folks are waking up and they are coming on. Now my necklace is connected to my earring. Hold on. But if you... I want to invite you to go with me to Luke. Luke chapter 22. The entire chapter is such an important read. It begins with the plot to kill Jesus. It moves from the plot to kill Jesus to the Passover and on down to the supper and down to our text, which it can be found beginning with verse 45. Well, actually, I'm going to start at 39. Luke chapter 22, verse 39. And he came out and went, as was his custom, to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him. And when he reached the place, he said to them, "Pray that you may not come into the time of trial." And then he withdrew. This text preaches itself. And then he withdrew from them about a stone's throw, and he knelt down and he prayed. And he said, "Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." And then an angel from heaven appeared to him and gave him strength. You know, sometimes when you read, I don't know if any of you have this experience. You go back and be like, have I ever seen that before? Have I just glanced over that in search of something else? But my goodness, I feel like I'm just seeing that particular, this verse 43, like for the first time. Then an angel appeared from heaven. Then an angel from heaven appeared to him and gave him strength. Listen, I could preach this right on that sentence. I wasn't even going there, and I don't know, I might come back, but I definitely wasn't going there. But hold on, just put a pin there, because we probably gonna circle the block on that. Verse 44 says, "And in his anguish he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down on the ground." I know, Nashika. I don't think I've seen that. So I should say that I am reading from the New Revised Standard Version, updated. I don't think I've seen that. Anybody else have? Listen, I don't have any of my other Bibles beside me. Well, I just haven't seen that. Okay, and in his anguish he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down on the ground. And when he got up from prayer, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping because of grief. And he said to them, "Why are you sleeping? Get up and pray, that you may not come into the time of trial." Wow, that verse has gotten me. That was Luke chapter 22, verses 39 through 46. And I want us to riff a little bit. My glasses are filthy. I want us to riff a little bit around the topic, woke but not awake. Woke but not awake. It's a whole word right there. Woo, but I feel like I want to go park at this little, that thing won't let me go. Woke but not awake. Let's see how the Spirit brings it to us. Woke but not awake. You know, we are no stranger to the term being woke, the terminology of wokeness. As a matter of fact, it is something that you might hear often in particular communities, namely when it comes down to social justice or calling for justice or being vigilant. Stay woke. It might be to stay up, dog, or or just the proverbial nod lets us know that we are being encouraged to remain with our eyes open, with our ears open, that we might be able to see and discern and to divide what is true and what is not true. We know that conservatives have some serious issues with the term woke and what they believe is something called woke ideology. They have an ideological opposition to woke. They view wokeness as a form of progressive ideology that threatens their traditional values and their social structures. They see woke as promoting ideas ideas that disagree, in which they disagree. They see critical race theory as a result of woke ideology. They see gender fluidity as a result of woke ideology. They see this radical social change as a result of woke ideology. They perceive that wokeness, as a result of it, then they begin to threaten one's freedom of speech. They argue that woke culture threatens free speech and intellectual diversity by canceling or silencing those with different viewpoints. They often characterize wokeness as an exaggerated response to social issues, leading to unnecessary panic and divisiveness. They suggest that it has a negative impact on institutions, that there's concern for them about the influence of woke ideas, the influence that it will have on education and on business and government policies. For example, conservatives have opposed diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and certain approaches to, again, teaching. They would believe or suggest or see wokeness as a broader cultural threat that undermines traditional American values and institutions. Some conservatives, they have used this anti-woke messaging as a way to rally their base. Some conservatives argue that woke policies in business it can harm economic growth and free market principles. There is a belief, friends, among some conservatives that woke individuals or companies are often performative or insincere in their social justice efforts. These are the conservative issues. These are their issues. And we are in the crux, those who are woke. We are in the crux of combating these wayward understandings of what it means to have sights. And so then let's talk about, since we don't agree with that understanding of woke, what woke is. This term, originally coined in the context of racial justice work, it refers to being aware of and actively attentive to social injustices, particularly those affecting marginalized communities. It encompasses a commitment to addressing issues like the interlocking systems of oppression that Patricia Hill Collins tells us are so visible in the matrix of domination. What are these interlocking oppressions? Any ism you have, sexism and racism and classism and militarism and ageism and homophobia and transphobia, all of the things that impress upon a human being's ability to live a human being's life free and according to the way that their soul desires. So again, that it has only been in recent years that conservatives have latched on to this term to illuminate on to suggest, right, that there are problems with being woke. It has been now politicized, and it is often used pejoratively by conservatives, again, to describe these particular kind of ideologies that they do not agree with. Woke. Woke. Let's make it a little bit more plain. When we are outside, when we are moving through certain certain areas. We often say, even on yesterday when our children were headed to the fair, someone in our home yelled out, "Stay woke." We wanted them to be reminded of their bodies. We wanted them to be reminded that in most events, that they will always, their body is already politicized, that they are often seen as not vulnerable, as not human, but as something that needs to be subdued. And so we want them to stay woke. We want them to stay woke when they're driving. We want them to stay woke when they're in a group together. We want them to stay woke when they're doing simple, timeless things that many of us did as youth, when they're listening to music, sitting in parked cars, at the cookout. We want them to stay vigilant and remain woke. But friends, can I suggest to you on this morning that most of us, if you are at the intersection, if you live at the intersection of marginalization, based on your race, your sex, your gender, your class, your age, your ability, then you are well familiar. You are well familiar on why you need to be woke, and you are even more familiar around the importance of wokeness. Let me just make sure that we are all here, that we are all together, that we are moving in the right way. But there is a difference between being woke and awake. Awake carries a spiritual or existential connotation. It refers to a heightened awareness of one's surrounding. It refers to particular spiritual truths. It implies a deeper understanding of life beyond societal norms. It focuses on an inward transformation, a kind of spiritual enlightenment, not to suggest that political activism is not spiritual enlightenment, but this idea of being awake taps further in to our spiritual technologies. Hence, some of us can be woke but not awake. Let's take it to the text. My goodness, today. Some of us can be woke but not awake. So here we are in the chapter of Luke. And we begin as we see that this is the plot. We enter this with the plot to kill Jesus. Jesus was being pursued by religious and political authorities. His teachings and his actions threatened the status quo of both Jewish leaders and the Roman Empire. My, what are you saying, Melva? Well, I mean, really just back it up to the text. We don't even, Jesus is on the run, friends. Jesus is on the run. He is on the run because of his teachings. He has to be vigilant. There are folks around him. As a matter of fact, he is on the run because he's woke, because he is woke to the empire, because he understands that the kingdom of God is already here, that he is ushering it in. And so as a result, he has found himself in a pickle, if you will. And so he begins to seek out spaces because his popularity is growing. It has grown. It has grown how? Because he has performed miracles. He has empowered his disciples to do the same. And while this plot is brewing, Satan, the text says, enters one of his disciples. The spirit of ill enters his disciple Judas, and Judas colludes with the chief priests and the officers of the temple of his religious tradition and ethnic background about how he might betray Jesus. Let me run it back. Judas colludes with the chief priests and the temple officers of his religion and his ethnicity. One more again. Judas colludes with his own folk about how to betray Jesus. And they come up with a plan. And once they come up with a plan, Judas now begins to search out an opportunity for when he can get Jesus. But now it's the time for Passover. It is an opportunity. It is time for them to observe the Passover. And Jesus sends a few of his disciples. He gives them instructions to go prepare for the Passover meal so that they would have a place to observe it. The Passover. The Passover is the commemoration of Israel's liberation from Egypt and their exodus to the promised land. Why is it called Passover? Come on, Sunday school. Because the Passover in this story commemorating their liberation, it also tells the story of the plagues that Jesus sent to Egypt to convince the Pharaoh to let the people go. Hence, the plagues passed over the Jewish people. Friends, listen, here is where we could just kind of take a left right quick, because if I could just get in here just a little bit and say, it is my wokeness that makes this text problematic for me. It is my wokeness that makes the entire 66, and we know there are more, problematic at times. Maybe not. Maybe it's the translation, or maybe it's the decision at the councils of what books get included. Either way, my struggle is for a God that is inclusive to actually have favorites. And yet at the same time, we will say that God is not a respecter of persons. But in these texts that have been given to us, in these texts that we translate, God clearly is a respecter of persons. Wherein that God chooses a people. God chooses a people that sets up millennia worth of havoc over the belief that a people are only God's chosen first, and so much so that they then move into a promised land where people already exist. Well, what did God promise them? We don't know, because we don't have that side of the text. I just needed to say it. But the interesting thing, let me run back to Passover. The interesting thing is that as Passover is observed, there are particular rituals that are practiced that commemorate the history of a people being brought out of bondage. You don't hear where I'm going right now. What am I saying? That one thing a particular group of people have no issue with is recalling and retelling their story. You don't hear it. One thing a particular group of people have no problem with is recalling and retelling their story and using ritual to engage it. Melva, what you saying? Where you going, honey? Let us start even using the word ritual, and we are having hot flashes. We are breaking out in convulsions. We are decreeing and declaring and cast out and rebuking from the simple term ritual. You see what I'm saying here? When Passover comes, there are specific rituals. There are specific symbols. There are specific spaces in which in where this should be engaged. And yet for these people who even struggle to observe anything indigenous, African, Afro-Caribbean, African-American folk who doing woo, help us today. And so they were observing Passover. Jesus tells them, this is what we need. This is what I need you to go to get. And then after they observe Passover, Jesus then institutes the supper, the meal, where he goes and sits after everything has been together, after everything has been prepared in a particular way. Tamil, can I go there? I want to. After the lamb has been sacrificed, only some of y'all gonna get that. Only some of y'all gonna get that. Woo, Jesus. After the lamb has been sacrificed. Yeah. Huh? What? After the animal. After the animal, those of you who say that particular practices are problematic. After the animal has been sacrificed and offered up and taken in, my Lord, today. Yeah. And Jesus then, we got to do all this before we even get to the text. And Jesus then, he takes bread and says, because now not only has the actual animal been sacrificed, Jesus then places his body as a symbol of the slain animal, as a sacrifice, to say there is a moment that is about to come when I already know that one of my followers has colluded and conferred with those priests and those temple officers, and the Roman Empire does not plan on letting me live. And so as we observe this Passover, not only are we engaged and instituting, you see it, Leslie, not only are we engaging and instituting this Passover meal from the sacrificed, the offered lamb, I then also become the offering. And so what I want you to do in this ritual is, here is my body that is represented in this bread. I want you to take it and eat it. Likewise, here is this cup that represents my blood that will be shed out. Take it and drink it, because it will represent new life. You don't hear or see this ritual all up in here, all up in your Christian text, rooted in your Jewish tradition. And if this be true, then how come it is so hard for you to recognize, honor, and protect and respect indigenous traditions? Somebody let me know. Somebody tell me. I'll tell you why. Because y'all too busy running around there and listening to these fools on the internet telling you not to give to the poor. Woo, my God, today. Now that that's out there, let's just keep it moving. Yeah. And so here, let's just go back to the text. So after Jesus institutes the Lord's Supper and says, I want you to continue this ritual. You need to do this ritual, because there will come a time when I'm not with you. And because this cup is about to be poured out, for it has already been determined. It has already been determined. And then he says, but woe to me. Woe to the person who has betrayed me. Goodness, this is not where I'm going. But do you hear that word? That was for me, honey. Woe to the person. Woe to that one by whom he is betrayed. God, I haven't even got, what time is it? I haven't even got to where I need to go. Whoa. And can I just share this as an aside? As they're now arguing about which one of them is going to be the greatest, which one is going to be the king? Jesus says to them, listen, some of y'all have stood by me in my trials. And listen, I want to let you know that the kingdom is here. So you're going to be all right. But then he goes on to say, but Jesus, but there are some amongst you. There is one amongst you who is plotted against me. Can I say to you, stop questioning your discernment? Can I tell you, stop questioning your discernment? If you sense it, it's happening. If you sense it, it's happening. Yeah. Stop that. Stop that right now. If you sense it, it's happening. Yeah. This is not a conspiracy theory. I'm not telling you, I ain't saying your boo is cheating on you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if there is a nagging awareness, if there is an alertness that comes with some sensation, if you laid your head down and in the dream that you dreamed, some awareness came to you, stop acting like you don't have that gift, that you don't have, that you don't have the ability. If you sense it, it's happening. Period. If you sense some distance, it's there. Jesus predicts Peter's denial of him, right? He said, Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times. This I know. It does happen, right? And then here comes Judas. And all of this is happening, right? That we know that Judas, not here, but we know that Judas is about to come. So here we are now finally to our text, that Jesus comes out after experiencing all of this, after observing the custom, after observing the Passover, after initiating the disciples. The institution of the Lord's Supper is an initiation, friends. I just want to help us. Let me put my lip gloss on. After initiating the disciples via the ritual, initiating the disciples within the commemoration of the Passover, wherein Jesus becomes the actual sacrifice. That is the ritual. The institution of the Lord's Supper is an initiation. Hence, that is why, when we take the bread and the wine, we are in agreement and we are practicing ritual. See, it can't be just okay because we call it the Lord's Supper or because we call it communion. A ritual is a ritual is a ritual. And according to Malidoma Somé, in the Healing Wisdom of Africa, the purpose of ritual is to join the community together, is to bound us together. That there is a ritual, Somé has written, for every facet of life, for birth, for death, for marriage, for separation, for graduation. Initiation is all around us. We are always being initiated. But it is yet again another colonizing concept, another way in which our Western imperialist and colonized understanding of Christianity makes us believe that anything that is outside of the norm that has been forced upon us is wrong. And even here's the most treacherous of it, that even those of our siblings on the continent believe that their own traditions are wrong and are so now influenced by this sort of neo-Pentecostalism, are so now influenced that they practice this form of Christianity better than those who own them. My God. So Jesus goes out to the garden. He needs to pray. It was his custom because this was his place of refuge. This is where he needs to reconnect. He needs to reconnect with God. He needs to reconnect, Reggie. He needs to reconnect because listen, this right here is a digital hush harbor because most of us on here are outliers. Most of us on here are not traditional. Most of us on here might have a function in tradition, but we are not traditional. Most of us on here may have to mask, have a double consciousness within tradition, but we are challenging it. Most of the folk on here are truth to power speakers. Most of the folk on here have already had their hand tapped by the proverbial powers that be. Most of us on here have already reaped the consequences of what it means to have sight and what it means to speak and what it means to challenge and what it means to walk in the way. Most of us who are on here have already tapped into this political insight and awareness, and we are vocal about it. Most of us on here are on some kind of symbolic no-fly list. Most of us on here, yeah. And so, if you then are on here, then you know how taxing, you know how exhausting it is to have to day in and day out, to have to be vigilant, to have to stay woke. You know how problematic it is that sometimes you wake up in the morning and you attempt to decide that you don't care what happens today. You don't care what comes across your desk. You gonna be quiet. You ain't gonna say a word. You gonna let somebody else do it. It's above you now. You say, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna get in here. I'm gonna sit at my desk. I'm gonna do the work that I'm paid for. I ain't gonna try to be nobody's hero. I ain't gonna try to be nobody's shero. I ain't gonna try to speak on behalf of the Lord. I'm gonna just come in here and mind my black owned business at my black job. Friends, but you know just as well as I do, it is like that fire that Jeremiah talks about that runs around up in our bones, that you can't even help it. That soon as you see the injustice, soon as you see the issue, you already on it. But friends, that's exhausting. Come on in here, Nat Bishop. Nat Bishop Trisha Hersey has told us that this kind of grind, even the justice grind, provides for us or results in a kind of justice fatigue. And that most of us are suffering from this kind of grief, the kind of grief that comes when you know that a system is corrupt, the kind of grief that comes when you only have to look back over history to see that while some things have changed, so many things have stayed the same. It is the kind of grief that comes every time we have to make a new hashtag that is the name of one of our siblings, one of our daughters, one of our sons, one of our parents, one of our uncles, one of our aunties. It is the kind of grief that comes every time we see these political ads from the radical right that want to pounce on the rights of women's bodies. It is the kind of grief that comes. It is the kind of grief that comes when you realize that in following the call of God or in moving in a way that you believed you were being directed. Come on, let's get into this truth here. That you gave all of yourself over to a vocation, all of yourself over into an institution, all of yourself over into an organization, and there was no reciprocity, and it hadn't been given back unto you, and you sacrificed the best years of your life, and you sacrificed the future of partnership, you sacrificed the possibility of bearing children, and what do you have to show for it? I'm only talking to the people this morning who want to be real about it. This exhaustion. Oh my God. Then maybe you did get partnered and you realize that this person isn't strong enough to hold your truth, that this person is intimidated by your shot. Can we talk about how exhausting this is today? Jesus is exhausted. And not only is he exhausted, he is scared. Hey, because see, wokeness would suggest that even though we're woke, some of us might not always admit that we're scared. And so, we need to fall back. Jesus falls back and he goes to the place where he often goes when he is exhausted. He goes to the place where he often goes where he needs to reconnect, where he needs to charge. And when he gets there, he got a few of his folk with him. And when he gets there, he says, listen, this is what I need y'all to do. I need you to pray. He gives them an assignment. The first assignment, he says, I need you to pray so that you won't come into the time of trial. And then he leaves them and he goes somewhere else so that he can pray. And once he gets there, he says, Father, if you are willing to remove this cup from me. This lets me know that he was scared. Yeah. Listen, just because you're scared don't mean that you ain't get ready to do it. But it doesn't negate that you ain't scared. It doesn't negate that you ain't tired. And he says, hey, wait a minute. Listen, I've done everything that you've asked me to do. Yep. From the time I was 13. And when I went into the synagogue and I started teaching the people, my parents didn't even know where I was. They were a day's throw on the journey and had to turn around and come back to find me. I've done everything. I fasted, went into the wilderness by myself. I called on the people that you directed me to call to walk with me, the journey with me in this work. I tapped into my inner spirit and my own divinity that comes through you, and I began to do the work that I heard you speaking to me. I recovered the sight of the blind. I freed the poor. Listen, I've done every single thing. I was at that wedding, my first act, and they ran out of wine, and my mother came to me asking me what was I gonna do. And I made the wine come. Listen, I've done everything that you said. Everything. I've spoken out against the empire. I went into the temple. I turned over the tables. I told them that they were wrong, that they had moved so far from their tradition, so far from their ethnicity, so far from the God that called them and rescued them. I did all of this. I've done all of this, and yet still, death is on my heels. Death is upon me. I initiated them, and even yet still, one of my own is about to betray me. God, if it be your will. If it be your will, God. Hey, God. Let this cup pass from me. This request is human. It is a human request to ask God to relieve you from the load, to relieve us from the stress that comes with fighting the empire. But not only was Jesus fighting the empire, Jesus was fighting his religious tradition and his ethnic folk. My God. My God. My God. Hey, yes. Woo, Jesus. Holla if you hear me. He is in the fight of his life, and he simply says, y'all, if you're gonna come with me, if you're rolling with me, if you're in my community, I need you then to go on over here and pray. I need you to pray so that when you come, so that you won't come into the time of trial. And then I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna pray. And I'm gonna say, if you're with me, if you're willing, if you're willing, Lord, take this cup from me. Jesus was also grieved, friends. He was grieved. Oh my God. It's the kind of grief that Martin King writes about in Strength to Love. It's the kind of grief that I think Elder Malcolm experienced when he just come back from making Hajj. and realize that he'd had an awareness now that placed him even more so in the line of fire because he could not be silent. It's the grief. It's the grief that I imagine some of our justice fatigue mothers of the movement, all the way from Mamie Till to Sabrina Fulton and so many others. It's the grief that we experience in so many ways, in so many of our systems and traditions. It is overwhelming, and moreover, the disciples are experiencing this grief. Come on, the grief that we engage, for this ongoing racial injustice and violence, the grief of economic disparities and lack of opportunities, the grief of our political systems that seem resistant to change. But Jesus comes back to find them sleeping. And he says, "Why are you asleep? Get up and pray." Jesus here is speaking to this get up and pray, he's inviting them to awaken. They're already woke, but they're not awake. They're already woke to the situation and to the circumstances, but they are not awake. Oh, friends. Come on, Melva. What are you saying? Get to what you're saying. Listen, let's just run it back. To be woke then, right? They already understand the political social nature. They're already emphasizing their collective action for justice. They've already become initiated, if you will, into this movement, which is not, might I add, which is not a religious movement. But to be awakened is an invitation to lean in to this spiritual awareness. Come on. It's to lean in to a kind of discernment. To be woke can be viewed negatively. Because of our bifurcation into sacred and secular. But to be awakened is to have the opportunity to tap deeper into a kind of spiritual technology that when we come upon a trial, we have a vehicle, we have a technique, we have a technology to tap into to combat our grief and to combat our exhaustion. Jesus is trying to get them to tap in. See, and here's the thing. I get why woke people ain't into Christianity. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it. I don't think it was, Ronnie. We're going to talk about it in the clearing. That just came to me. I don't think it was a religious movement. Not fully, not solely. Certainly he was Jewish, and certainly he was speaking against these rogue practices in the temple. But I think, moreover, that this was something else that would have an effect on the way they practice their religion. That's just me. Ashe. Now listen. Jesus is frustrated with their sleeping, and he wants them to get up and pray. Child, some of us might be like, pray. Like, I'm out. What did our sister, truth is, I'm tired. Options are few. I'm all worn out, God, but where are you? Take me to the king. Listen, Jesus is providing them a way. That another way that do not allow empire to make you belittle your praxis, your spiritual praxis. Don't let the wiles of empire overwhelm you to the point where you believe that your spiritual response is not valid. Come on, come on, come on, come here, come here, come here. Why are you sleeping? You need to pray. He's not talking, he's not, telling God, in your mercy. Remember, if any of you are familiar with the works of Dr. Aubrey Hendricks, who talks about in his book of The Politics of Jesus, that the Lord's Prayer was a prayer that could get you killed. So we already know that Jesus was not talking about some little mealy mouth prayer. He wasn't talking about some bless me and nobody else. Our God who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, because you're going to feed us. Yeah, and lead us not into the tempters, but deliver us from this evil. For yours, listen, if Caesar knew that this is what you were praying, that you were giving your obedience to a God that it could not see or recognize, then it could get you killed. So when Jesus is telling his followers to pray, he's not telling them to offer some prayer for prosperity, to offer some prayer for some super level of materiality, because Jesus believes that the blessing will come in community. Jesus believes if we can tumble, we will tumble empire by using the spiritual technologies of our ancestors. And what spiritual technologies may he been talking about, Dana? He may have been talking about the spiritual technologies that he witnessed, or that he would have learned about in the Passover. Remember, go back up. He has to first commemorate the Passover. The Passover, the commemoration and the institution of the supper are one of the things that gives him strength alongside the angel that God sends him to strengthen him. And once he is strengthened, then he says to them, why are you asleep? And friends, I'm just stopping by this morning to tell you, it's one thing to be awoke. It's one thing to be woke. It is not the same to be awake. You might be woke, but you ain't always awake. You might be woke, but until you can understand the spiritual significance, the spiritual tapestry of our ancestors, then you will forever remain asleep. Until you can understand the creative and the spiritual genius of those who have called us, then you will forever be asleep. We are in a time and we are in a moment, we are in a day that requires us not just to be woke, but to be awakened. It requires us to tap in to our spiritual technologies. It requires us to go deeper into our dream life and our imagination. It requires us to use our ashe, the ability to make things come true once they are spoken. It requires us to engage in incantation and conjure up the world we want to see. But in order to do that, we just can't be woke. We have to be awakened. Will you be awakened with me today, this morning? Ashe. Will you make the decision to awaken today? Sure, Dr. Melva, but what do you mean? What do I need to do? Just yield. I yield. I yield that while I have been leery of certain kinds of Western traditions, I yield that I struggle with colonized Christianity and Islam and other traditions. I yield. But what I know to be true is that I've been called to this place. I've been called to this time. Not only have I been called, I made the agreement to come in this dispensation of time. My soul said yes. And so I need to tap in to my soul's work. I need to tap into the genius and to the insight of our ancestors, our well ancestors, to those who were creators, who were innovators, to the ingenuity of those before me. I need to tap into those whose names I don't even know, to those who were visionary strategists. Hey, bullshit. Hey, I need to tap in to those who are waiting on the other side to give me the wisdom that is needed to complete the assignment. I need to tap in, and I admit that I've been sleeping. We admit that we've been sleeping because we've been in fear and because we've been weary. We've been sleeping. Woke, but still sleep. And so in this moment, we awaken to pray, to tap in. And our tapping in goes beyond any denomination. Our tapping in goes beyond any one institution. Some of our tap-ins will mean we're going to quit America. Come on, Ronnie Galvin and Unique Redwood. Because that's what some of our ancestors did. Come on, Nanny of the Maroons. Some of our tapping in means that we're going to have to complete certain things even when the people who brought us to a particular point, like Jesus, are no longer there. Come on and speak, Holy Ghost. Woo! Jesus says, pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The tap in is a preventative measure. Ashe. Ashe. Woo! Ashe. Ashe, 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 ashe. My God. Ashe. Jesus. I'm just tearing now because I know some of you are here and you feel this. Ashe. Cause what we have is much more than they can see. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, y'all, we're getting ready to head over to the clearing. Listen, it costs you nothing to subscribe with us on YouTube, Ashe, so that you can get notifications when we're live. And if you want to come and have talk back to the text with us, as a modest $30 subscription a month, I've put the link in here. And if you do decide that that is what you want to do, just email me right quick after you subscribe. You can either come back here on Facebook and inbox me and let me know you subscribe so I can get you the code, or you can email me right quick so I can get you the code. But we're going from here now. We're going to go tap in further. Ashe. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ashe. Hey, my God. All right, y'all.